slant upward, short brown hair, a wide space between his first two toes, short, stubby fingers, the happiest smile. All features of my cousin Johnny. Johnny suffers from Down syndrome, a common disease that results when a person contains a full or partial extra copy of chromosome 21. The National Down Syndrome Society gives facts about Down syndrome. It is the most common chromosomal condition today, resulting in 1 out of every 700 babies being born with this disease. Today, nearly 400,000 people are born with Down syndrome. The Linda Grinick Institute for Down Syndrome states that Down syndrome is one of the leading clinical causes for cognitive delay in the world. It is not related to race, nationality, religion, or socioeconomic status. Now, some of you may be wondering how information on Down syndrome could possibly have an effect on you. Well, if it hasn't already affected you thus far, it will affect you sometime in the near future. How, you ask? Some of you may major in careers that deal with people who have such disabilities, such as going into special education. Some of you may even have relatives or family members or friends who have Down syndrome. And many of you, perhaps all of you, will at some point in your life interact with someone who has Down syndrome. There are many effects that Down syndrome has on an individual who suffers from this disease. A person with Down syndrome is affected by their education, how they interact with their families, and how they influence the community. First of all, Down syndrome affects how children are educated. Now, it's hard to narrow down an exact model for how a family should educate their child with Down syndrome, especially because every family does things a little differently. The NDSS states that contrary to popular belief, children with Down syndrome do not have to be placed in special education programs. In fact, many who suffer from this disease are able to be included in regular academic classroom activities. For instance, my cousin Johnny attends his local public school. He's always attended there, and he does his best to keep up with the other students in his grade. Although he is a little different and it's harder for him to learn, he does his best to stay up with them. The education of a child with Down syndrome will also have a huge effect on the family life of that child. Education involves expectations, and with expectations comes encouragement from the family. Secondly, Down syndrome affects how people interact with their families. As I mentioned in my first point, it's very hard to narrow down an exact model of how families should deal with their children who have Down syndrome, especially because Down syndrome cases may vary from mild to extremely severe. Better Health Channel reports that if a family has high expectations of a person, better behavior and a higher level of achievement can result. On the other hand, low expectations can actually limit the person's potential. My cousin's family deals with this on a day-to-day basis. Johnny is the second oldest of 7 children, the youngest being a 3-year-old. With all this in mind, his parents can't devote their full attention to Johnny every moment of the day. Each family member does a good job of making sure that Johnny is treated equally. He sees the differences. He'll never quite be the same as his siblings. But through all of that, his family encourages him and even sets high expectations for him in order to help him achieve his goals. The family life of a child with Down syndrome will affect how much of an influence that child can have on the community as an adult. Encouragement and motivation from the family affects both the present and the future achievements of that child, even if the individual has special needs or not. Finally, Down syndrome affects how people influence the community. Although Johnny will never be able to participate in the community the same way as one of us could, he still has opportunities to be involved. For instance, many people who have disabilities are able to get jobs. There's several jobs to do, like bagging groceries at a grocery store, as well as cleaning off tables at restaurants. Johnny has many of the physical features of a person with Down syndrome. However, he also has an accommodating school, a supportive family, and countless opportunities to interact with his community. Through all of this, it's important to remember that people with special disabilities do have an opportunity to make a difference and have an effect on the people they come in contact with.